Hello everyone and welcome to Tom's Tomb of Horror, and the first video to premiere on this channel is going to be a Friday the 13th franchise ranking. That's right, I'm going to be ranking the Friday the 13th films from my least favourite to my favourite. And some of you may be here because you used to watch my horror content on The Green Man, or maybe you're just new to this channel and interested in horror, all the Friday the 13th films. Whatever may be the case, do drop a like and a sub and help me kickstart this channel. And yeah, maybe let me know your own Friday the 13th rankings in the comments. I look forward to reading those and welcome differences in opinion. As long as we are respectful to each other, it's all fun and good here. And the other thing I just want to say quickly is I'm not including the fan-made films here in this ranking. I will include a link to the Womp Stop channel where you can watch the fan-made films. I do highly recommend them. They are really good tributes to this franchise and really interesting, so do check out those films if you get the chance. Otherwise, I'm going to be doing a ranking of the 10 main films from the franchise here, plus the Friday the 13th 2009 reboot, as well as Freddy vs. Jason. That's also going to be a part of this ranking too. So let's start things here with my least favourite film. There are 12 films, and my least favourite coming in at number 12 is going to be Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. Now, I just find this film, there are lots and lots of characters here. And, you know, a lot of kills, but the kills just feel kind of very throwaway, as do the characters. They're not very memorable for me. It's kind of lots of cutaways to Jason with his machete without really seeing a whole lot of gore, I find, in this film, personally. And I don't think it's very well edited. It feels very clunky. And yeah, there are just kind of lots of issues I think I have with this film. It's still entertaining on a certain level. You know, it's still kind of got this kind of fun, schlocky Friday the 13th-ness about it, but overall it is my least favourite one here, coming in number 12, saying that I do quite like Pam Roberts as a character, but yeah, this one is my least favourite Friday the 13th film. Coming in next at number 11, we've got Jason Goes to Hell, which is part 9, really. And this one kind of just goes all out bizarre and weird. And some of you will be all for the ridiculousness of this one. And, you know, I know the franchise got more and more ridiculousness, or more and more ridiculous. And I kind of embrace that myself as well. But this one was even just a little bit too out there for me. Again, a bit like part 5, very clunky with the way it was edited and the way it was executed. Jason starts possessing people in this film. It's kind of weird. I wasn't so keen on the final girl in this one either. And just overall, this one didn't land for me. So Jason Goes to Hell comes in here at number 11, but it is still a fun time. I will definitely concede this one is a fun time with some good kills in it too. So that's why it's not quite bottom. Coming in next at number 10, we've got part 10, which was, of course, Jason X, or Jason Goes to Space, effectively. And there are lots of Alien franchise references here, I think, but this film knows what it is. It's very self-aware. It knows it's going to be a goofy B-movie in this franchise, and it just goes hell for leather with it, and I'm all here for that. I love some of the kills in this one. They're very entertaining. You know, you've got the girl who gets Jason smashes her face in the sort of in the ice, and yeah, that's a pretty brutal kill. I love some of the other kills as well. In the face-off between KM, I quite like the KM droid in this film, and the way she interacts with Jason and stands up against him. And there's some good fun in this film, but yeah, it still comes in pretty low down here at number 10. Next up at number 9, I've got Jason Takes Manhattan, which was part 8. And maybe this is higher than lots of people would have this. I've seen quite a few Friday the 13th rankings online and on YouTube, and this one is often very low down. I've still got it low down on my list, but maybe slightly higher than most would have it. And I think I went into this film with such low expectations, and this is one of the few films here that I've only seen for the first time very recently, and I was shocked at how much I actually enjoyed it. Despite being at number 9 on my list, I still had a really good time. I think the supporting cast of characters are better than the final guy and the final girl. I think her name is Renee. I feel like just the supporting cast of characters are good fun here. I particularly liked JJ with the electric guitar. I also really liked Tamara. She was kind of the bad girl in this film, but I liked her vibe. I know there were all kinds of wrong with that scene where she's kind of showing off her biology project. Right, but I still thought that was, you know, fun to watch. And you know, this is a you know, a fun film. Again, it has lots of the problems the other 3 below it have. It's clunky. It's just totally daft and off the wall. Jason was on a boat for most of the film and only in Manhattan for about 10 minutes, but it's still a blast. And it's higher than I thought I would put this one because, you know, as I say, I only watched it for the first time recently. Coming in next at number 8, I've gone for Freddy versus Jason. And, this film, it's a really, really fun time again. And I remember watching this for the first time quite some time ago, and I think it's grown on me a bit more over time. And it's just this kind of the clash of the iconic villains. I will say part of the reason I think it's low down is because I think they missed a bit of a trick by not casting Kane Hodder as Jason. I do feel like the Friday the 13th part of this film is the weaker part, and the Nightmare on Elm Street part is definitely comes through stronger. The other thing I do actually quite like on this film, it's why it's certainly not lower down, is I'm a little bit contrarian in my like of Laurie Campbell, the final girl here, and her friends in particular. I think are also they kind of provide this 2000s party girl vibe, which I quite like in this. Kelly Rowland's, I think, is quite good as Kia. And I also like Catherine Isabel's character as well, Gib, I think her name is. And she dies a little bit too soon for me in this film. But I think that they help provide a sort of a bit of personality and character to this one to add to the glue provided by the iconic villains as well. So Freddy vs. Jason, not a bad film, not a great one either, I think, but again, an absolute blast. Comes in at number 8. Number 7, I've gone for the original film, Friday the 13th from 1980. Now that might be a bit controversial, but I don't think of all the original kind of horror franchise films that this one stands out much. I think it's quite slow. It sort of, doesn't for me have too much about it that stands out in the way other franchise. There aren't too many standout kills here either, perhaps barring the Alice Hardy kill of Pamela Voorhees towards the end with the decapitation, which is a fantastic moment, I have to admit. But overall, I find this one a little slow and dull. Saying that, I do think the Harry Manfredini soundtrack is great. It really helps provide the creepy atmosphere. I do like the naturalistic style of this as well, that it's kind of just feels like, you're somewhat there with the characters, having a fun time at this summer camp. And I quite like some of the characters. I think in the earlier films, the characters are very likable. Those first 3 or 4 films, I think, have got some of the more likable characters in this whole franchise. And I do think Alice is quite a good final girl. And yeah, the sort of characters seem slightly more friendly here and therefore a little bit more likable. Overall, it's an okay film, but I don't think as a franchise original, it particularly stands out for me. So that's why it's coming in at number 7. Number 6, I've gone for part 4, The Final Chapter, which I think is a bit of a hot take because I see this film much higher. I think of other YouTubers who've put this as their like number 1, 2 or 3, and here it is, quite low down here at number 6, but I still really appreciate this film. I like Corey Feldman as Tommy Jarvis. I think he actually brings some colour to that role. I like him as probably my favourite Tommy Jarvis of the 3 Tommy Jarvis films. I think he just brings a bit of mischief, and he brings that kind of youth and naivety, but in a good way. And I like his relationship with Trish. I think this is the first time we kind of see the brother-sister thing. And Terrified 2, I think, maybe has been inspired by this film, by the way it also had the brother-sister thing. With Sienna and Jonathan in that film. So I sort of see, I feel like this is one of the first slashes where you kind of had the brother-sister setup, which was very effective, and one of the reasons I think this film was quite successful in what it did. But overall for me, I don't know why, I don't find this as memorable for some reason as the other films that I've got higher. But I do like it and appreciate what it's done for the franchise, and I think it helped keep it going. And one of the better of the sort of one of the better of the sort of earlier films, but yeah, not one of my favourites, probably. Certainly not one of my top 5 here. So coming in at number 5, I have gone for Friday the 13th Part 3. And I think this is a solid Friday the 13th entry. It's also quite high on my list because I have a bit of sentimentality attached to it. This was the first Friday the 13th I ever watched, and it got me curious enough to watch some of the other films. I didn't watch all of the films at that time. Actually, this was slightly before Freddy vs. Jason came out, so I couldn't have actually watched all of them back then. But yeah, I was sort of intrigued by this one in a way because there was a lot of toing and froing going into the barn and out of the barn. And a lot of the kills happened in the barn. There's sort of a huge amount revolving around this barn suddenly, which I found interesting. I quite liked the final girl, Chris Higgins, although personally I do think that Vera would have been a great final girl, played by Catherine Parks. I think that's the actress's name. And Shelley brought some odd dynamics, which kind of I thought were quite unique and actually made the film, while some people probably find him very irritating, I think he made the film actually quite engaging in an interesting sort of way. So I actually like Friday the 13th Part 5 quite a bit, and that's Part 3, sorry, correct myself, which is coming in here at number 5. Now, number 4, I've actually gone for, wait for this one, because this might be a bit of a surprise that this is this high, but the Friday the 13th remake. Although I am aware this is also one of Cody Leach's favourites, for those of you that follow Cody Leach. And I just really like what they did here. They just kind of amplified all the elements of the 80s films. I think the good and the bad of those films, right, the shocks, the kills, the nudity, all the kind of aspects of those 80s films, and they just amplified them. They kind of maximized the sort of, I guess, what the appeal of the formula for lots of Friday the 13th films was. Jason is absolutely brutal in this film, and you kind of got the gore factor here that I think must have been inspired by films of the 2000s era, because this film came out in 2009 after you'd had things like the Saw and Hostel franchise get some success, and I think that the gore factor in those films certainly inspired the gore factor in this Friday the 13th reboot from 2009. I just think it's a really, I wouldn't say it's a great film, but it sort of brings out the elements of the 80s films and kind of maximizes what they did, and really kind of goes hell for leather. And I think you maybe either love or hate this one, depending on your take on the sort of on the way it maximizes those elements. But yeah, I enjoy this one. I do feel like there was a missed opportunity. Whitney wasn't in the film enough for me, so I kind of ended up wanting Jenna to be the final girl in this one, but she wasn't. So I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity. But overall, good film. The usual kind of Friday the 13th schlockiness maximised, as I say. Coming in here at number 3, I've gone for Friday the 13th Part 7. And in this one, you have it taking a very different angle. A lot of people call this film Jason versus Carrie because of the supernatural powers that Tina Shepherd has, portrayed by the late La Park Lincoln. And I really actually enjoy what that brings to this film. I think, yes, it's ridiculous. Yes, it's daft, but it makes for some very entertaining final scenes with the final showdown between Tina and Jason, like when she manages to move the decapitated head to kind of attack him. It's hilarious towards the end of this one. I have a great time with this film. I also like the dynamic with Tina, her mum, and the doctor. I think it's Dr. Cruz. I like the dynamic with those three, and kind of root for Tina a lot, because I don't like the way that she's gaslighted and not believed. For the ability that she has, and sort of relate to that. So that's kind of another reason I really like this film and why it's so high. I know a lot of people don't like Friday the 13th Part 7, and I can understand that in a way, but I just connected to this film. I just really enjoyed this one, and I know it's sort of, some people love it, some people hate it, like so many of these films, but Part 7 I've just ranked highly for those reasons. I like the final girl, I love those final conflict scenes. I think it's got a unique setup in the franchise, and I just find it a lot of fun. Coming in at number 2, I've gone for Jason Lives Part 6 in this franchise. And I think that this one, for me, just basically, it has a great soundtrack with some great Alice Cooper tracks. I think it has a great final girl in Megan Garris. And again, a kind of triangle of character dynamics that works well with her, Tommy Jarvis, and the sheriff. Is it Mike Garris? I think his name is. I might have got that wrong. And I just love their dynamics, and the whole thing with the kills are great in this one. I think the kills get back on form after, for me, being slightly disappointing in Part 5, and it's just a lot of fun, and love that soundtrack. And I just have an absolute blast with Part 6, Jason Lives. So it's why it's coming in as my number 1 runner-up at number 2, which leaves just number 1, which is an early film. It is Friday the 13th Part 2. And I think, if you followed the Green Man channel and you remember me talking about Friday the 13th Part 2, I think in one of my tier lists, maybe I talked about Ginny, the final girl. I, I just think this one has, it does the first film better, basically. And I do think the first film had a lot that was good about it, even though it's quite low down in my ranking. Love the Harry Manfredini soundtrack. I love this one though. It's very it's kind of got that rustic feel once again, but it brings you closer to its characters. I think it maps out the character relationships better. I particularly enjoy the couples that you've got Ginny and Paul, the kind of main couple in this, the kind of power couple in this film, and I like them. You've also got Mark and Vicky, I think, which is the guy in the wheelchair and Vicky, who's kind of flirting with him a lot in this film, and I really enjoy that dynamic. Great kills in this one again, and yeah, it's a fun one. And I think over the years, out of all these films, this one is one I like to go back to a lot. It sort of lasts the test of time, I think, and I find out of the quality of these films, this one just about wins it for me. I hope you enjoyed this ranking of all 12 Friday the 13th films. I will be very shortly also revealing my top 5 final goals from this franchise. Do follow that, or do come along for that if you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to sharing my picks of the top 5 final girls. Otherwise, until next time on Tom's Tomb of Horror, I'll see you later.